Good afternoon. We're joined now by last week's Monster Energy Open Stage 2 winner, the driver of the number 21 Motorcraft Quick Lane Tire and Auto Center Ford, Ryan Blaney. Hi, Ryan. All right, so the last two races at 1.5 mile tracks, you've had 3 stage wins and you've led 231 laps. Are you due on Sunday?
I don't know if you call it due. We've been pretty strong on 1.5 miles this year, and which has been a lot of fun to be able to drive the race cars because they've been so fast. And last week, in the Open and the AllStar Race, we struggled pretty bad all weekend, and for some reason, and we could never really get where we wanted to be. So hopefully we learned a lot from last weekend, and we're able to come back with something new and hopefully be a little bit better. I know really all our cars struggled a little bit last weekend between mine and the Penske cars. So hopefully we worked out some of the bugs we needed to, and we'll be back to where we should be on 1.5 miles this weekend. So it'll, I hope so. It'll be a long 600 miles if it was any indication what we were like last weekend. But it's just nice to be back at Charlotte. Nice to have a kind of a home race 2 weeks in a row, and we'll see what we can do.
All right, and you talked a little bit about last weekend. Just how much does that really help?
Oh, it helps a ton. You see a lot of people try, kind of test things, and it's just this track is so tough and difficult, and being able to kind of get a little pre-race before the 600 was pretty nice. We kind of got throughout practice and the Open and the AllStar Race, you kind of go through all the temperature swings that this place goes through, and you have pretty much the same thing on Sunday with this race starting in the day and ending in the evening. So that was kind of nice to see where the track goes, and I'm pretty curious of what it's going to be like since they put that stuff on the top of the racetrack at the start of this thing. So I don't think you'll see anybody up there today at all. Maybe on Saturday if we get longer runs and the track's hot, but that'll definitely change it up a lot. I feel like this track needed it, and I think NASCAR did a good job of putting into action what they thought would be best. And I know our driver council talked about it, and I'm interested to see what it does. Hopefully it helps it out at night, because it was pretty rough last week around the bottom in the AllStar Race, and drivers don't want that, fans don't want to see that, and hopefully putting that stuff up top will help that out a little bit.
Also, we have 600 miles of remembrance this weekend. You'll have Army Reserve Sergeant Gregory Allen Bellinger displayed on your car. What does that mean to you?
Well, it means a lot. He was a friend of my engine tuner, Darren Russell, and it means a lot. NASCAR does a great job, supporting the troops every single weekend. I feel like we do the best in all of sports of showing our support to the military. But this weekend is something just a little bit extra. I had a family member of mine on the car last year. He was on the door with us, so it means a lot to show the support and get to meet all the military personnel that come to this racetrack, and being able to talk to them and hearing their stories. I was fortunate to be a part of that at a younger age with Brad Keselowski's foundation, his Checkered Flag Foundation. We used to give rides to military personnel, so it was really neat to hear their stories and be able to talk to them and get a small glimpse into their world. And it's nice to pay them back, hopefully, with them getting a glimpse into our world. So it's a really special weekend for everybody in the garage area, and I hope they enjoy being here and seeing what we do, because we wouldn't be able to do what we do without them. And it definitely makes for a special weekend.
And before we open it up, Ryan was at the Cars 3 screening during the week and has a role in the movie. How'd that go for you?
Yeah, it was fun. I can't say anything about the movie or I'll get in really big trouble, but that was really neat to be part of Cars 3. The first one came out, I believe, when I was 11 or 12, and that was really neat. I highly enjoyed that movie as a kid, and it was really, really special to be a part of one. Something that you enjoy a lot growing up, and something that sticks with you at a younger age, and then to be involved in it in a very small way still meant a whole lot to me. And that was a lot of fun to get to meet everybody who worked on that from Disney and Pixar and everyone like that, and that really meant a lot. And I thought the movie was great, so I'm excited for everybody to see it. I think it comes out in June 16th, I think it comes out. So that was really neat to go there. I brought both my sisters who were fans of it as well, so that was really cool. I'm excited for everybody to see it.
All right, cool. We're going to go to Reed Spencer. Then we'll go to Bob and Kelly.
Reed Spencer with NASCAR Wire Service. We saw the track light in the bottom lane at Bristol and now in the top lane here. Do you think going forward that that's going to be a solution to sort of even out the lanes in tracks?
We'll find out. You know, it's kind of uncharted waters, to be honest with you. You know, Bristol is a lot different, a lot shorter racetrack. We're not going as fast. Concrete racetrack. You don't know how that material that they use, or the substance, I guess, that they use, how that's going to combine with asphalt. I'm curious to see how that does. And, you know, it's very heat activated. And at Bristol, we're going to be running the bottom regardless. That's how it worked so well on the bottom there. And here, I'm wondering what it's going to be like when we're running 200 miles an hour into the top lane and hoping it's hot enough to stick. So that's going to be a little sketchy at first. But like I said before, I thought NASCAR, they had to make a move on that side of it to get us off the bottom of the racetrack, or at least give you options. You know, like I said, we saw it in the AllStar Race where it was just bottom feeding. And, you know, this, hopefully it'll help it out. But like I said, I don't know much about it. It's going to be really interesting to see how practice develops. Like I said, I don't think you'll see anybody on it today, but hopefully Saturday we'll get up there and get a feel for it and go from there. So.
Bob Hocker, ESPN. You're a guy who doesn't have a win yet, so you're kind of looking right now points as far as making the playoffs. Does the fact that this race pays more points, does it matter how you approach the race?
I don't think you change up your approach at all. I really think that we've done a pretty decent job all year as a team of attacking pretty hard, you know, all throughout the race, and it's paid off for us of, you know, getting stage points and a couple stage wins, and that's really helped us out from the 3 bad weeks that we had. It's kept us in contention to where we need to be, and honestly, I don't look at points very much. I just try to go out there and we try to win races and do the best we can and stay aggressive like we have been all year, and it's benefited us more than it's hurt us. So it's nice that they added an extra stage. I thought that was a great move on NASCAR's part, because this is such a long race. You deserve to have another stage in it to break it up, number one, and number two, if you're running up front all race, it's going to benefit you even more. So I don't think we approach it any different. You know, myself and the team, we're going to race it like we always do, unless the situation comes up to where you have to make another decision. You know, at the end of a stage, just like at Kansas or anything like that. But we'll approach it pretty similar.
Kelly Racer.com. Ryan, with how well you ran at Texas, do you know if you have the same car, or how much of that notebook is going to go into what you'll do this weekend because of the track similarities?
I'm not sure what car we have. I don't think it's the same. I don't think it's in its cycle yet, that Texas car. But, you know, the track has some similarities. To be honest with you, last year we would compare notes a lot more from Texas to here, with Texas being repaved. Yeah, you know, it's more of like a Kansas note, to be honest with you now. But we just kind of look at all of our 1.5 mile notes. But, you know, this place is one of the roughest we go to. You know, Atlanta's bumpy, but this is kind of a different style of bumps at this place. So you have to approach it a little bit differently. But, you know, we're always, all our kind of 1.5 mile setups are fairly close, and then you just have a little bit different things here and there. But it definitely encourages us to that we've run so well on 1.5 miles this year to come here and see what we can do.
All right, now we're going to go to Woody, Dustin Long, then Rick Bonnell.
Woody Kane with MRN. Just skip ahead a little bit. You mentioned the concrete and all that going to Dover after this, and I was interested in how you manage the phenomenon there of when you're at speed, you're putting down a lot of rubber, and then under caution, you're picking it right back up again. And with the drop-offs there, you feel, how do you manage that through the course of a day or a long run?
At Dover, yeah, it's pretty difficult to figure out. I feel like that's one of the most changing racetracks throughout the run that you get, because you said it perfectly. You know, we lay a bunch of rubber down, and our hot tires under caution pick it all up, and that means you have to kind of get your tires cleaned off a bunch more than you would like at this place. And then your car is completely different from the start of the run to the end of a run, just from all the rubber being laid down and applied. We get that sometimes at Bristol, like running the radius up top, it'll over rubber. But Dover is pretty similar, and that's just right around the bottom. So it's pretty tough to try to get your car to start out a run one way and then have it go, not totally south when the rubber gets laid down, because we usually have pretty long runs at Dover. But I feel like we have a fairly decent idea about that now. It's taken a few races in a couple of years, but I hope we can go back there. And I think we had a strong run going there in the fall race last year, and we ended up blowing a tire. And hopefully we don't have that this year. But I think we have a pretty decent plan for that place. So.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. Ryan, a couple things on the stuff they put on the track. You said you didn't think anybody would go up today. One, why? And two, when you eventually go up, what will you be looking for, kind of getting a sense of if it's going to work for you? And the last thing, since you mentioned Dover, that's a concrete track. Is this something that could even work at Dover, or should be considered? I know they've talked about other concrete tracks.
Yeah, the reason why I don't think anyone will go up there today is I just feel like, I know most of the Cup cars will probably be in qualifying trim to start out, and you want to be right on the bottom. The Xfinity cars, I don't know. They might creep up there with 2 practices, but it's kind of later in the day. I think our first practice there is at 4, and might start cooling off by then, so the bottom might be pretty fast. I just personally don't see it. I could be 100% wrong. I probably am wrong. I'm sure there will be cars up there, and I'll have to eat the words that I'm saying right now. But usually when you go up there in the top lane, your car handles completely different than when you're on the bottom. You kind of, me personally here, you always get really loose when you run the top compared to the bottom. Just you're carrying so much speed, and we'll just have to see how our cars adapt to that substance they put down when you do run the top compared to what it used to be here when there was nothing up there. And then going back to Dover, I think the top at Dover is fairly decent. You can kind of run middle and up for a few laps, and to be honest with you, Dover's so fast already. There's so much load and tire load there. That would make it pretty tough to put something like that down at Dover. You never know. I mean, they could work and they could try it out, and it might be the best thing ever. But I don't think this is a bad thing to try to, kind of play with right now, this stuff they're putting on the racetracks. I feel like that could open up more opportunities at maybe a track we haven't widened out fully, like a Michigan or something like that. I don't know. But it might be the next step in trying to get us to move around a little bit more at places to where there's just no grip on the top of the racetrack. And no, I hope so. That's just going to help the racing out if we can master that and pin it down. I'm just interested to see what it does on asphalt. I just don't know how it's going to react, and we'll see firsthand. I'll let you know whenever we go up there. So, yeah.
Hey Ryan, Rippinella Charlotte Observer. With the difficulty that there is these days in passing outside of restarts, I just wondered if you thought that there had been that much more emphasis on pit stops, and if so, how is that playing out as far as what teams can do to maximize what is a really short amount of real time?
Yeah, I mean, pit stops are huge. They've been, they're the easiest spots, to be honest with you, to gain or lose. We talk about restarts being an easy spot to get spots or lose spots. Pit road is very easy as well. Because we're all bunched up just like a restart, and it comes down to, a small point of how you get in your box, but the pit crews are a big point of it. If you lose a second on pit road, that's 2 or 3 spots, and that's big. That can win or lose you a race. And I know my team has been really strong this year. They've put a lot of work in, and it's the same group of guys we had last year, the exact same group of guys, and they've done a great job of working together and developing. And teams are always working on pit development, whether it's trying new guns or jacks, the way they do their formations around the car. They're always working on something, and our pit department has done a great job at the Penske Group to develop these guys to where they are really consistent and fast. And if you have those 2 things, you're going to be pretty good on pit road. And I thought we showed our strength a lot at Kansas on pit road. They did a great job with that deal. So they're a pretty young group of guys. We have one veteran who's been around it for a long time, and he's a pretty good quarterback for the whole deal. And but they do a great job. But yeah, we put huge emphasis on pit road, and that's something we've invested a lot of time and effort on on that side to get them to where they need to be. So, yep.
We're going to go to Joe and then
Thanks.
Jacob.
Joe Menzer, FoxSports.com, here in the middle. Hey, Ryan, so much has always been made of this race being, you know, the longest race in NASCAR. I'm wondering, the first time you ran it, did you find it to be that much more of a challenge because of that? And how much do you think the stage racing now is going to change that element of the race?
Yeah, to be honest with you, the first time I ran this race, we were doing the part schedule in 2015 with the Wood Brothers, and you know, you're young back then, and you're just getting into the Cup Series, and you're go, go, go all the time. And I was go from the moment of the green flag dropping, and had a couple close calls with the fence. And I look up, and they're like, all right, we're halfway, lap 200. And I'm like, oh man, I got to do this for another 300 miles. And I think I ended up knocking the fence down a few times. But you definitely approach it a little bit different when you've run it a couple times, just knowing how long it is and how much the track changes throughout the race. You calm down a little bit as you get a little bit older, I think, and as you gain experience. But I think the segments, breaking it up into 100 laps each, I don't only think that's switching it up in a good way for the drivers, but it's also switching up in a good way for fans. You know, this place would have super long green flag runs, and at the same time, I enjoy green flag runs. I think it's kind of what makes or breaks you as a team and driver if you have long run speed in your car. But I think for the fans, it's going to be nice to know we have these breaks at this point, because it's a long race for them to watch too. It's not only long for us to drive. That's a long time sitting in the stands and or watching on TV, and I think that's going to benefit in one, you see more restarts, which fans like, and things like that, and you kind of have a little break to talk to your family or something like that. So that would be nice, but I don't think they're taking anything away from kind of how special the 600 is by putting segments in it. I think it's still a great and fantastic race. It's just kind of breaking it up in a good way, I feel like, from all sides, from team side and the fan side. So.
Jacob Seelman, Performance Motorsports Network, kind of kitty corner to Joe over here, Ryan. You're a history buff, and you look at this, the Wood Brothers have won this race 4 times, but they haven't won it since before you were born, 1987 with Kyle Petty. Mm-hmm. What would it mean to you, not just to win the longest race in NASCAR from a historical standpoint, but to add another family name to the legacy of the Wood Brothers after Kyle won it 30 years ago?
Yeah, he won it in the car. That's going to be our Darlington car, actually. That's what we based that car off of, was his Sitco 711 car. But it mean a lot, you know. Wood Brothers is all about history, and it's, you know, we broke a 13 or 14-year drought of them getting a pole at Kansas, and I'd love to break another drought of them, their last 600 win. That'd be really special, and to be able to do that for the Wood Brothers would be really cool. And then the 30th anniversary to when Kyle won it, that'd be even more special. So I think we have the team to do it. You know, we just got to kind of do our jobs and stay in it for all 600 miles and position ourselves at the end of this race to have a shot at it. So it definitely mean a lot. You know, just to get them back to victory lane at any racetrack would mean the world, not only to me to be able to do that for them, but just to get them back in victory lane and for them and Ford would be really special. But for here, you know, there's kind of 3 racetracks where I really want to win at for them guys. It's Daytona and here and Darlington. And so this is our second shot at trying to get that done for them. We almost got it done at Daytona for them, and hopefully we can step it up here and make that happen. That'd be pretty cool.
Henry Hutton, Concord Independent Tribune. You know, as one of the youngest drivers out here, can you speak a little bit to the practicality of how important it was to get those extra laps in the All-Star race, and kind of to you on a personal note to be able to qualify for your first All-Star race?
Yeah, it was really important to try to get laps last week. You know, it's a great, you know, kind of almost a test session, to be honest with you. We got double the laps, being able to run the Open and the All-Star race, so that was nice. It was a shame it was kind of a struggle for us all day, but, you know, there's always a benefit even in, you know, kind of the rough weekends. You learn what not to do and what things didn't work, and you can apply them to the next week. And we're lucky to just come back here next week and try to make changes. But you know, as a young driver, and especially for this race, it's nice to try to kind of see all aspects of how the track is from day to night, and rub it in or not, and just put that in your personal notes, whether it's for me as a driver or a team, and knowing, okay, I need this at this point, or certain things throughout the race. But as far as being a part of the All-Star Race, like you asked last year, that was really cool, or last week. I always enjoyed it as a kid. You know, my dad always usually ran the Open, and though he wasn't really a part of the All-Star Race, it was always something really special for me to watch. It's just a cool event for fans and drivers, and I was fortunate enough to be a part of it. But on the fan side, I think it's one of the greatest spectacles, and I thought Monster did a great job last week of putting that on for everybody and really blowing it up and making it pretty special. So for me as a kid enjoying that race and growing up an hour up the road from here, it's pretty cool. Hopefully we can be a part of it in the future again.
Dylan McFadden with NBC Sports. Kind of going off one of the previous questions, with this being your third Coke 600, have you ever prepared physically for this race differently than you would any other race, and has that changed at all over the last 3 years?
I don't drink as much beer this week as I usually do, so that probably helped. But no, I don't really do anything different week to week. You stay hydrated the best you can and try to eat well. And I've never really had an issue in 600 miles. There's some people who do special things to try to prepare themselves, but I just kind of stick to what you know. If it's not broke, don't fix it. So I try to prepare myself every week like I do for this race, just like I will next week for Dover.
Claire?
Claire B. Lang, Sirius XM NASCAR Radio. Can you talk about the restarts in general and where you think people have come on the restarts? Used to be people were griping about them, and then kind of everybody settled down, and they're so important here, especially with the final stage. How do you look at the restarts?
Well, I mean, they're hectic for sure. If you're not aggressive on these restarts nowadays, you're going to get passed, and probably by 2 or 3 cars. So I feel like if you're playing defense on restarts, you're already behind. You kind of have to be on the offensive on all those restarts. And the last couple years, I've always not been very aggressive on restarts, and you get used up pretty easy. And then you spend the whole next run trying to get those 3 or 4 spots back. And this year, I feel like we've upped that aggressive level on restarts to try to, like I said, be on the offensive to try to get a few spots or a row or 2 here and there, just because you have to. If Kyle won the All-Star Race last week because he was aggressive on restarts. If he wouldn't have done that, he probably wouldn't have won the All-Star Race. So it just shows you the importance of it. And, not only here, but Dover next week or, Martinsville, even though there's not a lot of opportunity there to go pretty wide or be as aggressive, you still have to hold your ground. So they're as important as ever, for sure. And, here they're always pretty wild. So.
Do we have any more questions for Ryan? One more.
Since today is the 40th anniversary of Star Wars, I wanted to ask the obligatory Star Wars questions. A few weeks ago, you talked about your extensive vintage racing shirt collection.
Yeah.
Do you have a Star Wars shirt collection? How does it compare to your racing shirt collection?
Yeah, it's pretty extensive. I don't have as many. You don't really find a lot of old Star Wars T-shirts. It's not like racing stuff. They used to make tons and tons of old racing T-shirts, and you find your favorite driver and you try to search after that. But I haven't really found a lot of old Star Wars shirts. I just try to collect them when I can, whenever I go to Disney or something like that. I was walking through the Concord Mills Mall and I passed the Disney store, and I didn't know what was in there. And so I was like, oh, maybe they got either a Cars 3 shirt or some Star Wars stuff in there. And I walked in, I didn't know it was like the max age limit in there was like 7. And so I felt really weird. I was in sweatpants and a T-shirt with all these kids in there, and looking at, like, searching for, I would even take if I found a cool one like a kids XL, I feel like that would fit me, but they didn't have any of those, so that was a little weird. But yeah, I have a bunch of them. It's pretty cool that it's 40 years. That's pretty special. But yeah, it matches my racing T-shirts. So.
All right. If you didn't know, you can listen to Ryan's Glass Case of Emotion podcast on NASCAR.com.
Nice. Thanks for the plug, man. I appreciate that. We had Jeff Gordon on this week, so that was kind of cool. If you haven't listened to it, it's pretty cool.
All right. So give that a listen, and thank you very much, Ryan, and good luck this weekend.
Thanks.